Today's presentation, we will be discussing the indicators of development. My name is Sasha Goodridge. I will be your presenter today. This session explains the measures used to determine economic, human, and sustainable development. The presentation will begin by looking at the definitions of indicators, followed by a discussion on the economic, human, and sustainable indicators. You may be wondering, what is an indicator of development and what is it used for? An indicator of development is a measure used to determine the health of a country. There are three types of indicators. These are economic, human or social, and sustainable indicators. The economic indicators measures are used to determine the level of development by using the income or the money earned by a country. There are different types of economic indicators. For this presentation, we'll be looking at three indicators, which will be the gross domestic product or the GDP, the gross national product, which is the GNP, and the per capita income, which can be divided into gross national product per capita and gross domestic product per capita. The gross domestic product is the value of all goods and services produced within a country for a given year. GDP is recorded in US dollars. Richer countries and more developed countries like USA and Germany have a higher GDP than developing countries like Barbados, Jamaica, and Haiti. Now, the gross national product or the GNP is the total value of all goods and services produced by a country's economy in a given year. It includes all goods and services produced by individuals in a country and corporations within and outside the country, and this makes it different from the GDP. Now, the GNP reflects how much income each person would have if divided equally among the population. Per capita means per person. There are two per capita indicators of economic development. Those are GNP per capita and GDP per capita. GDP per capita is the value of goods and services in a given country divided by the population. Richer or more developed countries have a higher GDP per capita than developing countries. The GDP per capita is used to compare the sizes of economies across countries. The GNP per capita, however, is the dollar value of a country's final output of goods and services in a given year divided by its population. It reflects how much money each person would have divided equally among the population. Economic measures have their limitations. One such limitation is that the economic measures do not specify what kinds of goods and services are produced by countries. They also do not account for wealth distribution or the degree of income inequality in a society. They also do not identify if people live fulfilling lives in a country. For example, are young people allowed to fulfill or to pursue their gifts like playing the violin, or are they allowed to go to school? They do not capture the informal economy in a country. For example, the black market, lessons or babysitting, things of that nature. Economic indicators have their limitations and prove to be inefficient for the analysis or comprehensive analysis of development. So non-economic factors such as inequality of income distribution, for one, access to education, had to be accounted for to arrive at meaningful understanding of development. That is when the United Nations began to speak about human development. So what is human development? Human development is a view of development which sees people as the means and ends of development, and they have to be provided with the opportunities to develop themselves. There are different indicators of human development. These are Human Development Index and a Gini Coefficient. Now, human development indicators uses social and economic dimensions to determine the human welfare of a country. Therefore, when you look at the Human Development Index, you will see that they use both social and economic dimensions to determine how developed a country is. The Human Development Index is therefore a statistical tool used to measure a country's overall achievement in its socio-economic dimensions. They look at health or life expectancy, education, look at the years of schooling, standard of living, and they look at the income per capita within a country. The Gini coefficient, however, is used to measure inequality because we know one of the limitations of economic indicators is that they did not measure inequality. So on a Gini coefficient, 0 indicates perfect equality and 100% perfect inequality. Sustainable development is a theory that looks at development holistically, taking into consideration the environment. So one sustainable indicator is the Inclusive Wealth Index, which is a measure used to evaluate sustainability of the economy and the well-being of a country. So the sustainable indicators take in the economic aspect of a country, they take in the human aspect of a country, and they're now taking the environmental aspect of a country to develop the inclusive wealth. There are also other indicators, what I call modern indicators. One is the internet penetration, which is important, especially now in terms of our human development, where education is so much dependent on internet access. So why is internet penetration so important? The reality is, in 2021, we live in a digital age, and without technology or the internet, we cannot develop effectively. And we know internet is important for education, energy, for governance, for healthcare, and different aspects of the society. So internet penetration is important for countries' further and continuous development. Then there is the good governance, which talks about the art of exercising power, and it is so important for development because it talks about transparency of the government, how the government allocate resources, how they use their products, tolerance for freedom of expression. So good governance is important for the stability and the long-term development of a country. From this slide, you can see the importance of the indicators of good governance. You can know rule of law is important for stability of a country, quality control, control of corruption, political instability, and violence, especially in the digital age where stability of government is supposed to support development. Which indicator do you think is the best measure of development? Thank you for watching.